I mean, it's amazing. Like I could take my son and pick him up from school. I can come home for lunch, and like hang out here and be able to spend time with my girl and be able to not have to worry so much. And I mean, obviously the benefits for my body, like I've been in manual labor for the entirety of my life. Working in front of a computer is much different and something I'm not used to, but it definitely does feel better. I don't feel so drained all the time. My mental focus is better because of that. And so it allows for so much more growth, so much more opportunity as I step away from, what I knew the most, being on the tools and just working and busting my back and doing everything I could while really limiting my growth. Now, the sky's the limit.
Right on. Well, we got Richie here. Richie, thanks for hopping on with me today. Would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Richie Johnson. I'm in Southern California, Temecula to be specific, and my painting company is Bray J Painting.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about your history. How did you get into painting and how long have you been a painting contractor?
Well, my father was a painter, so growing up, I was around it. I used to help him out at jobs. Didn't take it super serious, but I learned a bit, and then I did my own side jobs for a while. I was out on the East Coast, and but still didn't have my own business. It was more just like word of mouth here and there. Did some jobs, me and my dad, and then I came out to the West Coast, and I started working for somebody down in San Diego. Good boss, young guy like myself. And when I found out I was having a son, we decided to move a little north, and I decided to start my own company. Um, I knew all the painting stuff. Like I know how to paint real well. I know the on-site project details, but the logistics stuff was obviously all stuff I had to learn. And I started to do that on my own for a while, using Google, using YouTube, all this different stuff. And then I came across your blueprint program on, I believe it was Instagram.
Okay. So say like the year leading up to, finding out about Blueprint, what were things like in your business?
So it was a one-man show. It was a one-man show. I was doing everything myself. Uh, and learning on the job as well. Like I said about the logistical part, some jobs I overbid, some jobs I underbid. I had a cold streak for a while with interiors. I just kind of had my estimating wrong, and it was a bit of a struggle. But luckily, I was able to get a bunch of local work to kind of get by. I wasn't very intentional though. Like I didn't know exactly like what I was making on every job. It was just like I book a job, I do a job. I book a job, I do a job. And all my money, I didn't have a business account. It was just everything was mixed together. So it was kind of disorganized and just getting by. And there was an obvious ceiling because of that. So the struggle, the struggle definitely was for about a year, maybe a little bit longer. That I was really really struggling, and then kind of put more attention behind it. And even before I got to Blueprint, I started to be a little bit more intentional as far as like getting a business account and really getting down to the nitty gritty of like, all right, what works? What am I spending on paint? What am I spending on what am I making in labor? Like all those details. And then finding Blueprint kind of organized it even more, made it even more, and opened up the opportunity and the possibility for more growth, and the
So what
ceiling
were,
was kind of off at that point.
on average, what were you producing? Looking back on average, what were you producing per month before you joined?
Some months were some months were not great. Some months were okay. I would say like I was kind of aiming for 10 to 15K a month. And sometimes I hit it and sometimes I didn't. Um, and in the very beginning, like I said, because I was so disorganized, I'm not even 100% sure of if I hit my marks or if I even went over my marks. But once I started to get a little bit more intentional, I started with goals of like 10 to 15 a month. And
And it
once I
was you
started
pushing
setting,
every drop of that paint.
at that point, it was just me.
Yeah.
Um, and I hired one or two, three guys, maybe in and out, like just to help me on bigger jobs. And again, it was the same thing where it was like there wasn't much intention behind it. It was a little disorganized. So I just had a helper here and there. They weren't great. But I got by. It was a lot of just getting by at that point.
Yeah. So tell me about like your worst moment. When did you get to that point where you're like, enough is enough, something has to change?
I just had seen like I just had gotten to a point where I now have a young son who's just 2 years old. I'm spending crazy hours working to get jobs done, and it's all just me. Um, and all the jobs are like that. And I'll just be out of the house for so long. Um, and it didn't seem plausible to keep doing. I was driving myself into the ground basically without really even the opportunity for growth, to make more money, to even the sight of getting off the tools was not there at all, because there was no intention behind it. There was no systems behind it. There was no structure. Um, so I just kind of a couple months before Blueprint, I was just like, I gotta change something. My girlfriend is a business owner herself, and she knows a lot about marketing and all those things. And she saw the same thing. She's like, "You're driving yourself into the ground. You're exhausted all the time, and you're making okay money. Like just getting by, and like no time freedom. If I'm out of the house painting, I'm out of the house painting. I can't do a bid. I got to do a bid on the weekend, or I got to do it in the afternoon or the evening." And I just got sick of that.
What were your thoughts the first time that you saw my ads? You said on Instagram.
Yeah, I think it was on Instagram, and I thought, like I said, my girl is somebody who has pushed for so long, like uh training courses online. She does her own training courses online. So I kind of had some knowledge of that. Years ago, I would not have even stopped. Like I just would have been like, yeah, I'm gonna take a course on building a painting business. Like I just was very skeptical of that.
So
And
what was the thing that made you decide to at least schedule a call with us?
I think it was the 30K a month guarantee, which of course I was skeptical of, but I was like, you know what, let me give it a call. And I scheduled a call, and I was still kind of in a place where like I really didn't have that much money to put into it, but I figured why not at least hear them out and see what it is. And I forgot who I spoke to. Very good guy, but he kind of walked me through it. And he told me the whole program, and kind of at the end of it, I was like, all right, so what's the catch? I was like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but like, what's the catch? He's like, well, he's like, there's just a few things that you have to do. You basically just have to follow this program, and if you follow this program, we're so confident that this program will work that you will have gained that 30K a month in revenue by the end of 90 days. Still, I was a little skeptical, but I read through it, and I was like, I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen? And and I did like the idea of it. He kind of gave me a sneak peek into like what the modules look like, and like what the Slack group is about, which has been super helpful. And I said, you know what, I might as well invest my money in the right way. At least I know it's going towards something that's going to further my growth in the business. And if I don't make 30K in a month, at least I'll have learned some stuff along the way.
So tell me about, you take the plunge, you make an investment. Tell me about the first month. What happened in those first 30 days?
I was all in for sure. I was up. I was on in those modules. I checked every video out. I was writing notes. I was on all the trainings. Um, and business was, I think in the first month, I still was kind of like busy, but I still was 100% all in every night. I was looking at this stuff and taking everything in and absorbing as much as I could. And I saw it immediately that I could benefit from this 100%. Like I could see it immediately. Like you got to do the work, but I understood that if I did follow some of the suggestions and some of the strategies, like that, I would grow from it. Um, and so I started doing those things. I started doing some of the using the marketing tools that you put out in the modules. Um, Even though hiring was like so far from my mind at that point, because it wasn't plausible financially. Um, I seen that was a possibility. Like I seen that I could do that, and if I build my business and I follow this program, that it'll work. And I started to see results uh, fairly immediately. Um, and yeah, it was right away that I noticed it could be beneficial to me. It's just about doing the work then. And then once work started to build up and I got busier, I I still was on all my calls on Tuesdays for the trainings, and I still was doing the modules and whatnot. But I had less time to do it, which is how it usually goes, right? It's like you get the benefit of something, and then you kind of start to neglect it a little bit. But uh, I kept coming back to it, and I kept making sure that I was on those calls, learning everything I could, and implementing all the strategies. And as I implemented more strategies, completely correlated with my growth in my business for sure.
So how much would you say you booked in the first month? And then how much do you think you booked in that first 90 days?
Um, so I want to say like the first month I booked like I didn't book 30, but I think I booked like 20. It was my highest month yet in the first month. I think I booked like 22. And and then we kind of ran into Christmas and like the slow time of the season, which I kind of expected. So I wasn't like mad about it or down on it. But just finishing up my 90 days, I just hit my 30K mark. Like I just hit uh in a month, not over the 90 days. I would say over the 90 days, it was probably uh 70. Does that make sense? 20, 20, 15, 30, something along those lines. But it was right at the end of like my 90 days where I like kind of just hit my mark. And even if I hadn't, like I wasn't gonna come to you and be like, "Hey, Mike, give me my money back," like, um, because I knew it was there. Like when I kind of shared with you, like, "Hey, this is where I'm at. What do you expect?" And you were like, "If you by the end of this have a crew of maybe two guys and you're you're booking work out for the next 2 months or so, or a month and a half, like I think you're in a good place. What do you like? Do you agree?" And I did, and now here I am with five guys, three guys 100%, and five guys total, and I'm booking out, you know, 30, 40 grand worth of work. And like more estimates than I've had. I had more estimates this week and the last 2 weeks, now that I have a crew, that I had the first 2 months probably.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about the structure of your business now. So are you still painting?
Not no, I'm not it's a strange thing, not painting. I've told you that. Um, but I have three guys, a foreman, like like the crew leader, and two additional guys who are now kind of I'm trying to keep them busy as well. And I don't have a production manager yet. We kind of just like discuss that prior, but I'm running paint, running materials, and booking jobs and estimates. And I've been able to spend more time and focus on my marketing stuff, on cold calling. I just had an interview with another marketer yesterday, who I'm gonna hire to start doing the cold calls for me and knocking on doors and get me more work. Um, and just that, like I said, just these last 2 weeks, putting that intention, having that time to put the intention and focus in advertising and marketing, Facebook ads, that Facebook video ad that I did through your program, like, is killing it right now. Like, actually, I was getting no leads at all on my other Facebook ad, and then finally, we put this thing together and getting a lot of leads, getting a lot of estimates, and yeah, just trying to book as much work as possible.
Last year, you were pretty much on the tools for the entire year. It's the middle of February right now. You're off the tools. You have five painters that are working for you more or less full time. How do you feel about the future of your business?
I feel like the I feel like my future is having two crews of 3 to 4 painters each is within striking distance. Like, and to be able to produce, 40, 50 grand worth of work a month is also in reach. Um, and I didn't think any of that was, not that it wasn't possible, but I just thought it was so far away. And in just short time, it turned for me. And I really do think that that is where I'd like to aim towards, having two crews, having a production manager like you talked about, and me just focusing on the marketing and focusing on the advertising. Um, and as and I think sky's the limit with that. Like when I
So with
first
that
filled out,
with that with that newfound freedom, how does that make you feel?
I mean, it's amazing. Like I could take my son and pick him up from school. I can come home for lunch, and like hang out here and be able to spend time with my girl and be able to not have to worry so much. Like I'm just coming in, I'm checking in, and I mean, obviously the benefits for my body. Like I've been in manual labor for the entirety of my life. Working in front of a computer is much different and something I'm not used to, but it definitely does feel better. I don't feel so drained all the time. My mental focus is better because of that, and so it allows for so much more growth, so much more opportunity as I step away from what I knew the most, being on the tools and just working and busting my back and doing everything I could while really limiting my growth. Now, the sky's the limit.
So how about I actually just that made me think about a question. When you were staring down the barrel of the investment to join the program. How did you rationalize that investment, knowing that you didn't have a ton of money in your savings account?
Because, well, there's a few reasons. Like, I spend my money on a lot of stuff, you know? Like, I spend my money on vacations, I spend my money on going out to eat and probably recklessly spend money sometimes. What better way to spend my money than on myself? Not for like some material thing, but to basically buy me the freedom that I have now, you know? And and time is the biggest thing. Having that freedom of time is the biggest thing for me. And grinding every day is just draining. As far as grinding physically every single day, not that this work that I'm doing right now, like I told you, I'm running around back and forth and doing a million things. Not that that doesn't take work, but it's a much cleaner work. I mean, I don't look like a hobo right now. A lot of times I'm walking around, I'm all dirty, I'm all tired, and now I could stay clean, I could stay at peace, have some time with my family, more time. It's all good stuff.
Amazing. And so what would you say to someone who's on the fence, thinking about joining Blueprint, but is still skeptical, still concerned, still scared of the investment? What would you say to that person?
Well, I would say I understand your skepticism. I'm probably I'm not a skeptic by nature, but for something like this, a big guarantee like that, a sale, it looks very salesy and like, here, buy my product, and I'm gonna save you. I'm gonna give you the life that you never thought you could have. It sounds like that, but it's true. It works if you just invest in yourself and then follow up by doing the work. Because anybody could just invest the however couple of grand that it costs, and then just sit back and be like, hey, it didn't work for me. Like, well, you can't just put some money in and be like, oh, like they're supposed to fix my business. Like, no, you got to put the work in for it. But they're giving you the tools to do so. And I've seen that using those tools has benefited me incredibly.
Amazing. Anything else you'd like to say to someone who's just sitting on the fence?
I would say take a leap. Like, I know it's scary. Like, starting a business was probably scary in the beginning anyway. So anything that doesn't scare you is not worth, you know, is not worth trying. So it should scare you. It's a big investment. It's a big trust you're putting into Mike and the Blueprint crew, but it definitely works. It definitely will benefit your business if you just are open to it and do the work. I mean, we're all hard workers as painters. If you have your own painting company, you're a hard worker. Work hard, work smarter, not harder. And this is the smarter choice.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you, man. Thanks for hopping on, Richie. And yeah, super proud of what you've been able to accomplish in such a short period of time, and glad you're able to spend some time with your kid now. And yeah, really excited and stoked to see what you're going to accomplish this year.
Appreciate it, Mike, for real.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, later, Mike.